What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV, where we bring it to you real and we bring it to you raw. I got a guy on that I did a bunch of time with. He was a dude that was super, super close with me. He was my typer when I did legal work in prison. He's been through some stuff, spent many, many years, I believe 14 years in prison. I ended up doing some legal work for him, got some time knocked off, and he was able to eventually get out of prison. Been in USP Hazleton. He's been around the prison politics, been involved in some dangerous situations. But you know what? I'm going to let him tell his story. Tell the people who you are and where you're from, brother.
Oh, I'm Jesse Stark. I'm from Michigan. And, well, that's about it. Prison made me into the person I am today. And, fuck, I wouldn't change it for the world.
So, Jesse, I mean, you've been to some dangerous places, right? How old were you when you ended up in federal court? Do you remember?
26.
26 years old. And what was your sentence?
Felon possession firearm.
Felon in possession of a firearm. How much time did you end up getting for that?
They gave me 15 years, 180 months.
180 months, that was the mandatory minimum. You had to get 15 years just for being a felon in possession of a firearm, right?
Yes.
So I want these dudes that are watching, man, that caught a felony when they were 16 or 17, I want them to know that they get caught with a 12 gauge or something, their mandatory minimum's 15 years and they will take you to federal court, right?
Yes, they will.
What kind of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, with me, it was just a little 22 Ruger, one of the old ones. That was it. I didn't even have it in my possession. They found my fingerprint on the clip.
Found your fingerprint on the clip and gave you a 15-year sentence.
Yep, that's it.
What prison was your first prison?
USP Hazleton.
USP Hazleton, one of the most dangerous prisons in the country. You walk into USP Hazleton, you're a young man. Keep it real. Were you a little bit nervous?
No, absolutely. I went in on a lockdown because ABs ended up putting a hit out on a couple of guards. So after, maybe a month lockdown, there was no more ABs on the yard. They just shipped them out everywhere else.
So you get there off the bus, it's locked down. Do you go in a cell with somebody you don't know?
Yep. It was my cellie for a couple of years there, Kenny Brown.
What was it like going in that cell? Did he accept you? Was he, aggressive? How was it?
It was an older guy. He was a little standoffish at first, but he pretty much told me the ropes and what to do, what not to do. So he was pretty much like a father figure for me once I went in.
Man, it kind of sounds like Mr. Young in my book. You typed up some of my book over there, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
I remember you typing it, then I ended up getting out and editing it and all of that stuff. But listen, let's talk a little bit about prison, Jesse. Let's talk about what your life was like in there. Was it violent there?
Hazleton was, yeah, for the most part. We were locked down most of the time. And for the 2 years I was there, we probably locked down for half the time.
What was some of the most vicious things that had happened while you were there?
One of the ones that I witnessed, I was working Unicor at the time. And found out this other guy named Ricky and was selling knives to a different race. So our shot caller and his missile ended up going at him, stabbed him, I don't know, like 15, 16 times. And yeah, there was blood everywhere and everything else. And once it was all said and done, he said, let this be a lesson to any of the newcomers. Keep your fucking head straight.
Let me ask you this. Who was it? Was Spike the shot caller over there then?
Yeah.
Is that who put the work in? Who put the work in, Spike?
No, Patch did. His missile.
I mean, what happened when the dude's getting hit in Unicor?
Yep.
Was he trying to fight
absolutely.
back?
Oh, yeah, he tried. He wasn't going nowhere, though. Yeah, Patch had a good hold on his arm and just kept reaching around and hitting him.
What were you thinking when you seen this going on in your mind? Were you like, wow?
I was like, holy shit, what in the world did I get myself into? And what world is this? It was insane.
Was that one of the first times you've seen some extreme violence like that?
Yep.
Do you think it affected you seeing violence in prison?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, who wouldn't have changed?
You talked a little bit about why this guy gets stabbed, right? And I want to ask you this, because people don't understand prison politics. This was a white guy. He was selling knives to other people, right?
Yep.
So tell the people how that works. I mean, that's against the rules. Is it against the rules for blacks, Mexicans, or just whites?
As far as I know, it's against for everybody because then weapons can be used against you. Yeah, you sell it to a black guy, you might get stabbed by that same knife you sold him.
Is that the reason why, the politics are in place?
Uh, a majority of it, yeah, if not all of it.
Do you think that was extreme to stab the dude up, or do you think they did the right thing?
No, I think they did the right thing because I bet you he won't do it again.
What else did you see happening at Hazleton while you were there, man?
There was a big old riot on the yard at once. I mean, I missed that one. I was in a unit at the time because they were doing a 5 minute move up and down the hill. And as soon as they did the 5 minute move down, it popped off on the yard. It was between the blacks and the Mexicans, the DC blacks.
Eventually, you make it out of Hazleton, right? What was it like to leave Hazleton?
A sigh of relief.
A sigh of relief because of the violence, because of being locked in.
Yeah, that and just constantly walking on eggshells, not knowing if you're gonna do something wrong, and have a whole car come at you for something you didn't even get a warning for or something. Yep, just sometimes your shot caller would tell you to go do something, you didn't do it, he'd send like 3 or 4 people at you.
So in prison politics, right? What are the type of things
Yep.
that a shot caller would ask you to do?
Uh, well, if you're a knucklehead, he's probably going to send you on a couple missions. But yeah, I don't know, Hazleton. There was a couple guys out there that Spike said, "Yeah, I want you to run this ticket and run it good and all that." And one of them ended up not producing like he was. Gave him a warning. So I gave him that warning. He did it again. Gave him another warning, and then they found out he was using heroin. And yep, beat the hell out of him because that's where all his money was going.
So he was
That's
robbing the
what.
money from the ticket?
Yep.
Were you ever
Yeah,
asked? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
yeah, because at the time, Spike was thinking that that all these other people owed him for the tickets and stuff. So Spike would send Patch to go try to collect this money, and Patch came back and said, "Nah, they said they paid it." So they ended up going up to the ticket guy and said, "Well, where in the hell is all this money going?" And he couldn't explain it, and that was his ass.
So some people, let me explain what a ticket is, right? There's people gamble in prison. They got gambling tickets, NFL ticket, basketball ticket, NASCAR ticket. You can pretty much bet on anything. And what these dudes do is they have runners in each unit. They photocopy the ticket, they put down the lines, and they have workers, right? Them dudes take in the pay. Let's say they take in $10. They get $2.50 every $10 they take in. This dude was just taking all the money, all the bets, and keeping the money and getting high, right?
Yep.
Major violation in federal prison.
Oh, absolutely.
Jesse, you ever had to put in work?
A couple times. I mean, nothing major. Just had to go beat a couple people up, but that was it.
And usually the white guys will send what, 2, 3 guys on one guy?
Yep.
I mean, that's in every car though, right? I mean, the mission is to win, right?
Absolutely.
You're a crazy dude, bro. What were the politics? What were the politics like as far as, when they come ask you? Was there ever times where you were like, damn, man, I don't want to go to the hole?
Oh, of course. But it's like, well, either you do this or we're going to come at you.
So either you do it or, you do it and go to the hole, or you get beat up and go to the hole. So it's a no-win situation, right?
Yep. But that's one of the things I did like about Hazleton, though, because the shot caller, he could always go up there and bail you out, what they called it. And he said, no, he's good. He can come back out. We'll keep him in line and everything else. I mean, as long as there was no weapons involved or nothing, it was just a straight fist fight or something, they let you right back out.
So let's let people know how that works. So back in the day, I think the police kind of delegated it to everybody. You take care of your own people, right? Someone does something wrong, you guys get rid of them. don't have us dealing with a bunch of bullshit, bunch of issues. So in return for dudes, let's say a dude steals something, then your car would beat the shit out of you, and you'd go to the hole. The guy that's stealing, he's beat up, he goes to the hole. He ends up getting a transfer. The guys that beat him up, what you're telling the viewers is that the shot caller could go to SIS, he could go to the lieutenant, he can say, hey man, let Jesse out of the hole, he's good. We're going to keep him under control. We had to handle that business. And they would let you out.
Oh, absolutely.
I think some people would be shocked to know that this is how federal prison really works. That people can go to the people and say, hey, look, let this dude out of the hole. He's been down there 3 days. And they're like, well, he kicked the dude's eye in. Give us 4 more days. We'll let him out next week. And they really let you out, right?
Yes, they do.
Do you think Hazleton was the most dangerous prison that you were ever in?
Yeah.
Were there times where you felt like, man, you might lose your life in there?
No, absolutely. There were times where I thought I'd never even get out of there. I mean, as far as catching another case and spending more years there.
And eventually you do make it out. You said it's like a relief. You end up in Raybrook, right?
Yep.
Is that where you go from Hazleton to Raybrook?
Yes.
And when you get to Raybrook, I mean, it's still a little violent there. I mean, they called it a mini pen, right? A little bit dangerous, around some dangerous people, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, we've witnessed some stuff at Raybrook ourselves. I don't know if you were out there the day when they had the riot with the Spanish. That was just before you ended up leaving. Where they had that little riot with the Spanish dudes, the New York dudes got involved to help the Dominicans against the G27s. Were you outside that day?
I don't think so. I might have been working that day.
What was life like in Raybrook for you?
Pretty easy for the most part, except for getting hooked on a couple drugs. But other than that, I stopped and yeah, everything was good. Always had a job. You looked out for me the most.
I mean, there were plenty of times when I had to pay your bills, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How many times I have to yell at you, man?
No, absolutely.
I didn't say absolutely. I said, how many times you think I had to go in your cell and, I mean, half-ass threaten you sometimes because it was getting out of control, right?
Oh, more than a few.
I fired you a couple times,
Yep.
but went and got you right back and put you back to work, right?
No, absolutely.
Let me ask you this, right? Because we're going to talk a little bit about this K2 thing. It's an epidemic in federal prison. People are stealing. People are getting high. Sometimes, I mean, you would get high and you'd be high as a kite for 30 minutes. I'm like, Jesse, what's up? And you go. And I'd be like, what the Do you remember those days?
Yes and no. I remember being told about them, but I don't remember them.
What made you resort to that stuff? I know there were times when you got depressed and stuff like that, but what made you resort to getting high in prison, man?
Pretty much just to escape the reality.
The reality of what? Because I know what some of the stuff you went through, like with your dad and stuff like that. What's the reality? Because there's young dudes listening to this video. What is the reality? Does it hurt to be in prison?
It does, because in a way you have nobody, but in another way you have everybody. I know it doesn't sound like it makes sense, but you're away from family and everybody loves you and everybody else, and it's just a general sense of being alone. You have nobody. But at the same time, you've got friends in there that'll help you out if you need it or something. But but it's kind of hard to explain. Sometimes those friends will turn on you.
You mean friends in prison?
Yes.
So we were around a bunch of guys like Brad and Biz and all of them guys, right? And we had a pretty good group of dudes in there. There were times when, I was beefing with Biz or whatever, but I thought we had a pretty good group of dudes in our unit. Did you feel that way?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there were times when you talked shit about me, when you hated me, right?
Oh, yeah.
But sometimes you were pissed off at me because I was trying to get you back on track because you were getting high every day, right?
Yeah.
Getting high to the point, unfortunately, but I know you turned your life around now, but there were times when you were getting high, Jesse, where you didn't even have soap and deodorant in there, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not here to
that time.
I'm not here to downgrade you or anything like that. I mean, you ended up getting through it, but I mean, there were rough times, man. Who'd you start getting high with first over there?
Oh, wow.
Was it?
Probably say Oz.
Yeah, and I asked you that because I figured it was probably Oz, and we're going to talk a little bit about him in a minute. So Oz was in prison. He was getting high on what? Suboxone, right?
Yeah.
Was he smoking deuce?
Not so much, but he would every once in a while.
I mean, he was a phenomenal baseball player, worked out all the time in the weight room, all of that, right?
Yeah.
But he had a vicious, vicious addiction. Parents loved him, sent him all kinds of money. Parents had big money. And eventually he goes home. And tell the people what happens when Oz goes home.
I didn't know this until about maybe 6 months ago, but he OD'd. Yeah, he got out and he was still on drugs and he OD'd on heroin.
That's the thing, right? People are in prison. Your parents are sending you money. And people don't realize, man, that you're sending your kid money, right? And he's telling you, I need food, I need this. But really what you're doing is you're enabling his addiction. And they never get off drugs. They go home and now they get a shot of some real dope and they end up dead. Sad, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you guys were pretty close. You guys were cellies for a few years, I think, right?
Yeah, I want to say for almost 4 years we were cellies.
You guys were cellies for a long time, and then eventually you end up going to the hole. Q is in the cell, and I buy the cell from Q while you're in the hole, right? So I get my own cell.
Yeah.
You get out of the hole, and you're pissed off at me about the cell, right?
Yeah.
Called me a bitch a few times behind my back. But it's all good, man. But anyway, Raybrook. Let's talk a little more about Raybrook. You ever see anything wild at Raybrook?
Not a lot. Seemed like I always missed that at Raybrook.
I mean, was it a violent place?
Oh yeah, I mean you hear about it all the time. Like deuces constantly going off. Yeah, for the most part, it was always in other units. For the most part, we had the calmest unit. Other than that one time we woke up in the morning and I forget who it was, the two black dudes sitting there fighting in front of the office.
I'm going to remind you of a few things because you might not. And then when you left, it really got wild after you left. But the morning you're talking about is the blood kid was smoking deuce. He stole the Paisa's radio, and they wanted him out of the unit. The Southsiders, the Paisas, everybody. So that morning, they ended up jumping him right there in front of the cell. You remember that, obviously, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you remember the white dude that came and we had to send him up top? I ended up going outside to work out, and Vinny and do you remember Mike from Rochester, a little skinny young kid that was a troublemaker? They went in the cell and ended up sending the white dude. Like, man, I was in the Marine Corps. And they're like, dude, we don't care what you were in. And they ended up sending him up top that morning. He acted like he was going to fight. I wanted to make you go in there with them, and then I was like, nah, I need him. He's my typer. I can't send Jesse out there. I didn't want to send you into a danger zone like that. But we had issues with white dudes there, right? Not paying their debts. Giovanni, do you remember Giovanni?
Yes.
Do you remember what happened with him, with the Southsiders and Spanky and all of that?
Yeah. Yeah. I actually seen him at Terre Haute. You ended up going to Terre Haute.
Oh, he ended up in Terre Haute. You end up back in Terre Haute after you leave Raybrook. Did you go to the FCI or did you go to the pen?
The FCI.
The FCI. So you end up leaving Raybrook because of the drug addiction, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what led to that. Let me ask you this, because some people might be interested in hearing this. Me and you were always in education. In the law library, you're over there typing. We spent 8, 9, 10 hours a day over there, right?
Yep.
Do you remember the school teacher over there that ends up getting fired?
Miss Macy.
Maybe we shouldn't say her name on here, but anyway. What'd she end up getting fired for? Do you remember why?
Oh, yeah, she was sleeping with an inmate.
There's some things that we can't talk about on here, but, I said a few things where I walked back there one day on the early go back or whatever from Chow, and I go in there because I'm looking for something, and I walk in and I see dude he's got her in her office. No one's in there. They didn't realize that the door was unlocked. Another officer unlocked the door, and he's in there nailing this chick, and I'm like, oh, I took off. But, I mean, these things happen in federal prison, right?
Oh, absolutely, all the time.
She was probably making about $90,000 a year as a school teacher, and she blew it all for that, right?
Yep.
So anyway, Jesse, federal prison. We talked about how you felt, you get depressed, you get lonely. What's something that you hated about federal prison, man?
Being told what to do, when to do it. That's the thing I hated the most about it.
And
Yeah,
I,
you don't even, you have no control over your life in there. You got to do what someone else says.
what about when it comes to a prison shot caller, right? Not just the cops telling you what to do, but sometimes shot callers tell you what to do, right?
Yep.
There were times when you got pissed off at me, told me not to tell you what to do. Do you remember them days?
Oh yeah, I remember a couple of them.
One time you're like, I don't want to be a part of the car. Fuck this car. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
And that was because you had owed some money and I had to pay your debt probably for the fifth or sixth time. And I got on you. Like I wanted to discipline you. It got to that point. But because you were my buddy, man, I didn't want to put my hands on you. I didn't want other people putting their hands on you. And really, I tried to keep you, not that you're a punk or anything, because you'll fight, but I tried to keep you safe from your own problems, I would say, right?
Yep.
So now we end up doing some legal work for you. We get some time knocked off. You end up getting out of prison. What are you doing with your life now?
Oh man, I got my own place. I got 2 vehicles. I got an excellent job working at Superior Extrusion, which is a aluminum extrusion plant. We're making 20.65 an hour. Yep, I don't want for nothing out here right now.
Are you happy with your life?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you remember there were days
And,
when... Go ahead.
And it's a fucked up thing to say, but I'm glad I went to prison. I think it's what I needed.
Do you think you needed 15 years?
Yeah.
Man, that's
Yeah,
a hell of a statement, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, because I wasn't ready at first. You know, I did that 14 years. Well, even after the 13, once I got to Terre Haute, I says, yeah, I'm done with this shit. I can't do this shit no more. So I got out and just did what I was supposed to do.
Did you get off drugs over there at Terre Haute?
Yes, I did.
Haven't been back on drugs since.
Nope, not at all.
There were times when you were at Raybrook where you would go a couple months without getting high, and then I'd walk in your room and you'd be like, right? Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
We had a couple other dudes. Go ahead.
Yeah, even when Jim was my cell, he smoking deuce, passed out on the floor and everything else.
Let's let's talk about that a little bit. Jim Nicholson, right?
Yep.
He was a white collar guy, 40 years in federal prison. He accused you one time of taking his stamps. I mean, was that true or no?
No.
You did not take his stamps.
No, I plead the fifth. But yeah, I did.
You took his stamps, but did you think like, hey man, this dude ain't shit, I'm just gonna take his stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you ever think you might end up getting in a fist fight with him? Because I told you, man, this dude's gonna end up fighting you and he runs 7-8 miles a day. Do you remember them conversations?
Yep.
Because I remember Jim telling me, I'm gonna fight him, I'm gonna punch him right in the face. I'm like, nah, bro, you can't do that. You better not do that. And
Yep.
I kind of instructed him not to do that, but I thought you would fight back, and you may have won. You think you would have beat up old Jim?
Oh, absolutely.
You think you would have pounded him out?
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, man, I'm glad that you're out of prison, Jesse, man. When you hit me up on Facebook, I was like, damn, man, that's my boy. I guess you were kind of shocked to see that I was free. And, you know, I was glad to talk to you and glad to bring you on the show to talk a little bit about your experiences, even though you're kind of, you know, slow with words here a little bit. Like, absolutely. And, you know, prison is a place that affects people. Do you think it affects you to this day, bro?
In more ways than one. Dad, taking meds now for nightmares and no sleeping. Yep. So yeah, I got a real hard time sleeping now.
What's the most important thing in your life, Jesse?
My sobriety, my wife. Yeah, without my wife, I don't know where I'd be right now.
How about your life in general, just being free? Is that most important too?
Oh, absolutely. It made me realize what I lost. And yeah, there's no way in hell I'm going to lose that again.
What's the motivating factor to keep you out of prison, to keep you sober?
Just everything in general, really. It's like the wife. Well, my two kids, I never even met them. So once I got released from Terre Haute, that was the first time I met them. And they're 21 years old right now. And my oldest, he turns 22 on January 30th. And they were both living with me. One of them moved out, but the other one's still living with me. So that's a godsend right there. Yeah, I went through the whole sentence thinking they were going to hate my guts, didn't want nothing to do with me or nothing. Goes to find out their mom was lying to me the whole time.
I mean, how tough is it, though, to get out of prison and meet your kids that are, a lot older that you never really knew? I mean, did they accept you? Were they happy to meet you?
No, absolutely. Yeah, me and my oldest, we got a real strong connection now. Yeah, my youngest, he ended up getting in with a girlfriend, and now he's high on Subutex and doesn't want nothing to do with me.
Well, I hope that changes. But you know what, Jesse? Like I said earlier, man, I'm glad to see you're out. Glad to see you're free, living your best life. 2 vehicles, good job. You were always a worker in prison. That's one thing I can say about you. You had a hell of a work ethic. Unless, of course, you were on that deuce. But other than that, man, you were a pretty good dude, man. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate your friendship. We spent 5 years together over there. You know what I mean? So I feel a bond with you, man. We're close, and anything that you need or I can help you out, man, I'm always here, bro. And again, I appreciate your friendship.
All right, man. Shit, I appreciate you more than you know.
Before we go, man, is there a message you want to give? Something you might want to say before we go?
Yeah, whatever you're doing out there, it ain't worth it. Stay with your family, stay with your friends. Prison life ain't it. Trust us. We've been there, we've been through it. It ain't worth it. Get out while you can.
Nothing nice, man. I'm going to tell people if they like the video, man, hit that like button, share the video. Blood on the Razor Wire TV with respect. Until tomorrow, we're out.